This hat is making me very warm. I'm not liking it very much. I'm Micah, licensed therapist, and here we like to talk about horror. So I've been trying for a few years to get into something that resembles a Christmas spirit. Never really been good at that. I mixed up my content schedule to be less of a Scrooge. Figured I'd try something new. I decided that I was going to watch Christmas-themed horror movies and see if that helps at all. I'm not too optimistic about it, but I'm trying. I'm talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984 slasher film. It's kind of low budget. I have a warm place in my heart for low budget crappy horror. Never seen this movie. My first time watching it. I learned there was a lot of trauma involved in this story, and that's kind of my thing, so here we are. So the movie begins Christmas Eve, 1971. This family riding in a car, going on some kind of trip, and there's a little boy in the back and a mom and dad in the front with the little baby in the mom's lap. So this is before car seats. She's just holding this baby and they're driving, and I'm sitting there like, oh, that's not safe. This baby's adorable, cracks me up because it's just sitting there like...
Mom?
Yes, Bill. Little Billy is in the back seat. He's the older brother. He's like, I don't know, seems like he's like 4 or something. He's not very old. So he's asking about Santa Claus. His parents are like, oh, Santa's gonna bring you a big surprise tonight. So they roll up on Utah mental health facility. They're going to visit Grandpa. Grandpa seems to be in a catatonic state. He's like alive, he's there, he's just in his own world. This happens sometimes with schizophrenia. It's considered like negative symptoms. He could also be experiencing dementia or something along those lines. But we find out that he's a big faker because he can turn it on and turn it off at will. So it's not like, oh, I have moments of clarity. It's like, oh, the adults are gone. I'm gonna scare the shit out of my grandson for no reason. So as soon as the parents leave the room, Grandpa wakes up and is like, Christmas is the scariest damn time of the year. He gets ultra scary.
What about you, boy? You been good all year? You see Santa Claus tonight? You better run, boy.
Freaks the kid out. And then the parents walk back in and he's like, Grandpa talked. And they're just like, nah, because he's going to believe the little kid. Very convenient the way that things play out after this. Probably not very likely to occur, but it's horror. So Grandpa provided some foreshadowing. They're driving along and there's a person that is dressed as Santa Claus out in the road. Looks like he's in distress, like his car is broken down or something. And Billy's like, no, don't stop. Grandpa told me Santa was bad. They stop because it was the 80s and nobody had a cell phone, and we had not yet learned that people are absolutely nuts and might set us up. Gets out, Santa Claus comes up. Turns out Santa Claus is a real bad guy, which we saw a little earlier in the movie, and has a gun and is just being a criminal. It doesn't seem like there's a rhyme or reason for what he's doing. I don't even know if they explain why he's in a Santa suit, to be honest. I don't remember that part. He's just in one. Billy's like, nope, F this, I'm out. He goes and hides in the bushes nearby. And unfortunately, he watches this tragedy unfold in front of him. He sees his parents being murdered, his mother being assaulted. The guy didn't even steal the car or anything. It was just like, he was like, I'm just gonna kill people for funsies. And I wondered, like, where's the baby? Because the baby isn't killed. I'm sure there's some explanation for this. There's a reason there's so many sequels. Then we flash forward to Billy being in a home for orphaned children. So Billy's in this orphanage that is run by nuns. And if you know anything about the history of orphanages, weren't so great. A lot of the people who ran those were very sadistic, which we see in this movie. Mother Superior is old school. So Billy's supposed to draw us this picture, and he draws this like violent Santa massacre thing because that's his experience of Christmas and Santa Claus, because, you know. So he gets in trouble in class because he draws this picture, and he doesn't even think anything about it. He's just like, yeah, no, Santa's just a violent asshole, and this is what happens. And he goes and hangs it up there, and the nuns don't take too kindly to that.
Billy, take that down. Young man, you go find Mother Superior and you show her what you've done. March.
Mother Superior decides to respond very harshly. And like when I saw this and I saw how they were reacting, I was like, did they just end up with this kid and he like didn't say anything about what happened, so they have no idea that he's that traumatized? Oh no, they knew. They just didn't care. They thought that he needed to suck it up and move along. So there was one nun in this equation who wasn't awful, who, I mean, she was complicit because she knew certain things were happening and didn't stop them. So then weird stuff happens. So Billy, sneaking around, ends up spotting a couple. I assume, you know, some staff members there. So he sees this couple having sex. It's very clear that in being shown this naked body, that it serves as a reminder to his trauma history, watching his mother being assaulted. Mother Superior catches him spying on them, busts into the room, beats the ever-living crap out of both of those people. This is what happens when you forbid people from sex, because it's such a natural thing that we're going to find a way to do it anyway. But of course, old school ideologies, let's beat it out of them. So he is seeing that people deserve punishment for stepping out of line. All right, there needs to be consequences, but he is learning that there needs to be punishment and that it needs to be violent. Taking a traumatized kid and then traumatizing them more, not a good recipe. So he ends up being beaten for also spying on them. He proceeds to have nightmares, very standard for PTSD. Our brain's trying to kind of process the information from the trauma while we're sleeping oftentimes. So at one point, she ties him to a bed, and the good nun is just kind of like, oh well. Like, go untie him. Tell Mother Superior to fuck off. I know it's not that easy. She probably would have beat her if she'd said anything. So Mother Superior seems to have good intentions, but poor execution. And also, I don't know. I think that she thinks she has good intentions and that she thinks she knows what she's doing, but I think she's a little sadistic and she's exercising that sadism on children. Being raised in such an environment creates very strict internal beliefs and core beliefs about circumstances, and people oftentimes carry with them a lot of shame and I am bad if I do X, Y, and Z. So that kind of environment is generally pretty detrimental. Doesn't always breed murderers, but it does create a lot of trauma and a lot of anxiety in a ton of people. So then Mother Superior has this phenomenal idea that she is going to have Santa Claus come and all the children are going to hang out with them. And that Billy, who is severely traumatized, is going to get over it because this is her method and it's going to work. So what she's actually doing is she is trying to take components of exposure approaches, but she's flooding him. She's not doing some gradual exposure. She's not helping him process the information that happened. It's like if a kid was afraid of water, just throwing them into the pond and being like, good luck, swim. Not effective. Pretty harmful. So 8-year-old Billy decks Santa and he just flies out of the chair and across the room.
Say thank you to Santa Claus.
No!
I'm like, damn, that is a hefty 8-year-old punch. So after the chaos ensued of that situation, we fast forward and we are years in the future and Billy is almost an adult, probably 18. Nicer nun finds him a job at a toy store in the stock room, which seems like, okay, all right, he can lift things, he can stock things, this is a good place, he needs a job. So he gets this job, he starts developing a crush on a coworker, and he has some fantasies and things about that. He has a asshole coworker. Billy has a crush on this girl, and I'm pretty sure she's like with that dude or kind of dating him. So here he is with little experience outside of the orphanage, thrown into the grown-up world and told to function, which, you know, doesn't turn out so well. So Christmas rolls around. He's doing great in his job and they decide that he gets to be Santa Claus. They probably didn't want to tell him because they didn't want him to reject Billy, but because they didn't tell him and they didn't plan properly, Billy lost his shit. So here they are dressing Billy up like Santa Claus, the one person that he is the most terrified of in his entire life, and they are making him let children sit on his lap. There's a scene where he's sitting there and there's this little girl sitting on his lap and wiggling around and seeming uncomfortable and trying to get away, and it's a little creepy because he's just like, sit still, you're not being good, and just staring at her and like holding on to her, and I'm like, is anybody else seeing this? Because there's like parents and stuff around. He eventually threatens her in a way and says that she's being bad and that she would be punished if she was bad. So she stops, terrified, and nearby parents are just like, oh, he's so good with the kids. And I think people are really surprised by like all the abuse and things that happen with people that like right under other people's noses. It's this shit right here. You're ignoring your kids freaked out. You're not listening to them. You're not seeing that they're uncomfortable. And you're just like, oh, they're cute. They're sitting with Santa Claus. Side note, I have never, ever, as a kid, sat on Santa Claus's lap. And it was because I was like, that is a stranger. why would I do that? I don't know who that guy is. The nun who gets him this job finds out that he is being put in the role of Santa Claus at his job and is like, oh no. Because she knows that's a bad idea. That's a bad situation. That shouldn't be happening. So through all of this, he's slowly being kind of pushed into a different mindset. He's being exposed over and over again to his trauma. So this girl he had a crush on, he has a dream about her, but it turns violent. He has not resolved any of his trauma history, which why would he have? They didn't do anything but traumatize him more. So at the toy store, they decide to have a Christmas party, and I don't understand Christmas parties. Don't tell anybody, but I'm avoiding my work Christmas party. Everybody gets shit-faced in the toy store, so cool. The girl he likes ends up being assaulted by the asshole guy he doesn't like, and this seems to be a breaking point for him. He sees the violence, he sees what's going on, he just like flashes back to the old memories and freaks out, killing the guy. He ends up wrapping Christmas lights around his neck and like choking him until he's dead. And the girl's just like, what the hell's wrong with you? Because of her reaction, he's like, well, she's naughty, and kills her too. He's just not even himself anymore. I think that this is something that's depicted in movies a lot that isn't as likely to occur as we may think it is. People who have mental health issues and PTSD aren't traditionally more violent than other people. Most of the time they're more fearful than anything. So kills everybody, takes off, and the nun has found out about him being Santa Claus, so she is like, probably should do something. It's like, now you want to intervene. So she goes to the toy store and finds dead people and is like, I'm pretty sure it's like a police chief or something, some sort of law enforcement that she ends up meeting up with, and is like, we gotta find him, he's on a rampage, and I bet you he's coming back to the orphanage. She already knows that Mother Superior fucked him up, and that if he was gonna break, that's what he was gonna do, and she wasn't wrong. So some of the people that Billy kills in this kind of suck, so you know, you shouldn't kill people, but also you're not terribly mad about a few of them. But he also kills some just like straight up innocent people. It's very much like a Friday the 13th, like, ooh, you're having sex, you're bad, you have to die. We flash forward to this scene where this little kid is being babysat, presumably by this woman. She's babysitting this kid, and she has her boyfriend over, just like any other movie where there's a babysitter involved. They're downstairs, they're getting all hot and heavy. She ends up having to make the kid go back to sleep because he gets up, and it's kind of awkward, and you're like, oh no, kid's gonna see you all naked on the pool table. Doesn't, it's fine. So this girl, she hears this jingling sound, assumes it's the cat wanting in, and is like, oh, I gotta let the cat in. She's already topless at this point, and she puts on shorts, but does not put on a top, and then just proceeds to go upstairs in the house and open the front door to look for the cat. And I was like, you're pretty confident that like this kid that was just awake a few minutes ago isn't gonna walk in and see you naked, and it's cold. They just wanted to see boobs. I know that. So what happens because she's topless and according to horror of the 80s deserves to be punished? Billy comes in and punishes her, attacks her. He decides she's been bad. He ends up lifting her up, putting her on the antlers of a deer head that's mounted on the wall.
Punished! Punished! Punished!
So he kills her, leaves her hanging up there, proceeds to go wander throughout the house. A dude is like, where's my girlfriend at? And so he puts on his shirt to go and look. So this whole time he's killing people, he's like, punish. It's like in a trance or something. Ends up killing him. The little kid wakes up, and then you're like, oh no, don't hurt the little kid.
I see you come. Did you bring me a present?
And it's this really tense scene where he's just like, have you been naughty? And the kid's like, no. He ends up giving her like this bloody box cutter and then leaving. And the kid's just kind of like, all right, cool, thanks. So there's one scene where the police are out. The police have picked up on the fact that he is a murderer on a rampage dressed as Santa Claus, and they're going and looking for him, and they find this Santa Claus climbing into a window outside of a house, and I was like, I don't think that's him. And that's the case. They bust in, they scare the shit out of this family, and it's just the dad of the family sneaking in to like put on a little show for the daughter on Christmas Eve. And in that moment I was like, they could have shot him. Something's gonna happen. Foreshadowing. So this kid gets to learn about Santa a really hard way. So back to Billy, he's still chilling and killing and hunts down some bullies that are sledding and kills one of them, cuts his head off. So So then they're like, yeah, no, he's definitely headed for the orphanage. So they all head out there, and one cop heads out there and sees a person dressed as Santa Claus walking towards the orphanage where the kids are outside playing in the front. And so it's this dramatic, like, oh, he's got to get him. Well, he gets there. He tells him to freeze. He, gives him the commands. He doesn't respond, so he shoots him in front of the kids. And so these kids get to watch Santa Claus be killed. And it turns out that it wasn't Billy. Billy wasn't there yet. The guy they ended up killing was the priest, who is deaf. And that is why he did not respond. And Mother Superior's like, we're just going to keep going. And eventually she realizes, all right, we need to lock down in here. This guy's after us, but we're going to pretend like nothing's happening because that works so well. She ends up yelling at the kids to stop moping at one point over the priest / Santa Claus being murdered in front of them. Who shows up? Billy shows up. And Billy's about to give it to Mother Superior. And one of the kids let him in. They're like, oh, Santa Claus, because instead of trying to prepare the kids for safety they're kind of in the foyer in the open room right there by the front door, and nobody tells the kids that's not Santa. If you see Santa, ignore him. Go hide. Kid lets him in. The cop who was around already that had killed the innocent man had been looking around, and Billy got to him before he could stop him. So then he goes into the orphanage, is about to kill Mother Superior with an axe in front of all of the children while saying punish, because he's trying to punish her for what she did to him. He gets shot by the cop that is with the other nun who was trying to prevent the whole thing, sort of.
You're safe now.
So these kids have seen 2 people get killed in front of them. In that moment, I'm like, damn, what happened to that baby? And then there's some kids standing there that kind of has a similar appearance to Billy. It just transfers to this other kid that's standing there, and he just says naughty.
Naughty.
It's like it's some kind of virus. Then the movie ends, and the ending music is very cheerful. So, movie, it's the kind of movie that I would want to put on while I was doing something else. Probably not gonna ever watch it again. Wasn't like, oh, this is wonderful. It's meh. I didn't hate it. I kind of want to know what's going on with the baby though, so I don't know if I'm gonna watch the things. So thank you for joining me on my journey of trying to be a little bit more festive. I want to thank my patrons, all 2 of them. Have y'all listed here. Thank you. You're awesome. Anyone else watching, if you are interested in helping me improve my content, kind of supporting the channel, check out my Patreon. We have extra stuff there. You'll get shout outs. You'll get random footage of me talking about stuff. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Don't make your kids sit on Santa's lap. It's not cool.